Hey, what's going on, guys? So last night, Jordan Lyles, I know maybe it's one of those names where you're like, who? But Jordan Lyles, pitcher for the Pittsburgh Pirates, started last night in San Diego against the Padres, struck out a career high 12, 8 of which coming off a curveball. So this morning I was like, oh, I'll take a deeper dive into it. I watched the game and it was like, holy smokes, like this dude, and I'll be honest, like I haven't seen him pitch yet this year. And this dude was throwing this curveball that I'm sitting there looking at it, and I'm like, that's the best curveball in the league, or at least puts himself in the argument for the best curveball in the league, but no one talks about it. So, of course, me being a geek, I was like, let's dive in. Okay, so he struck out a career high 12, obviously great. How's this 2019 look? Well, thus far, 1.97 ERA, 45 2/3 innings with a 1.05 WHIP. So 45 innings, obviously, I think he was pegged as not even a starter coming out of spring training. I could be wrong, but I think he was signed like $2 million. Not a huge deal in the offseason. Not trying to be disrespectful, just telling how it is. So then I go to his Baseball Savant page where I can look at his 2019 like pitch profile for his curveball. So we look at it in 2019, it's coming in at 80.9 miles an hour. His spin rate on is 2517 RPMs, which is fairly good. Hitters are hitting 172 on it, 41.3% strike percentage, 35% whiff percentage, which is pretty good. And then you look at the vertical movement. I've talked about this in the past, how I look at pitch profiling and I look at vertical movement, spin axis, and all of that stuff. And for his average curveball this year in 2019 has been 8.6 vertical movement, right? So 8.6, yeah, it makes sense. So then I looked at, okay, well, was his average stuff that he's portrayed all 2019, was that what it was in that particular game? Because then that's like, holy smokes, like this guy's been having a sensational year all year with this curveball. And I found a few interesting things. Now, the one thing that I will say is I do not have his spin axis average for all year. I will include some graphs within this video that show different points of 2019 where he was at with this pitch profile. But so last night, he threw 30 curveballs out of 104 pitches. He got 8 strikeouts, like I mentioned, 7 whiffs, 6 called. And his vertical movement on his curveball last night was 10.81, which is two full inches above his average. Okay, so then I looked at the spin axis, and I'll explain this in a little bit if you guys are new to my channel. But spin axis last night was 16.02, and I don't have the graphs in front of me; they're on that screen. But you'll see that his at different points of this season so far in different starts, that it's kind of been, all over the place. Just to highlight a few, in a start against the Cincinnati Reds in April, his spin axis was 74 degrees, averaging a total of 7.88 vertical movement. There's a outing against San Francisco in April where it was 38 degrees, averaging a total of 7.71 vertical movement inches. So you can see just by like looking at some of his other starts that this curveball has not been exactly like it was last night, right? So just to dive deeper, I've talked about this in the past, but when you throw a curveball, especially from a slot like Lyles has, which is over the top, you want to create this 0 degree axis, right? So if a curveball at 12.6 is spinning 0 degrees, it's as true 12.6 as possible. That's 100% spin efficiency. Obviously, you're trying to create that top spin, right, to get that drop. So all of it plays into it, right? High spin rate means just faster spin, which means more late drop potentially. As close as you can get to 0 is, again, what is the hitter perceiving, right? So if you're throwing a curveball that's spinning close to a 0 degree axis like Lyles did last night with that 16 degrees, you see it in the slow-mo videos, it's coming out and it's spinning so fast that the hitter's maybe perceiving like a 4-seam fastball, right? So that's why we talk about pitch sequencing, the importance of having stuff in your arsenal that the hitter cannot perceive as each pitch, right? So when you start creating that tilt in the axis, you start seeing a wrinkle. Maybe you guys can see it early. But yeah, it was just very fascinating to see, the data behind his curveball last night, because obviously it looks filthy and the hitters are swinging at it like it's filthy. Will Myers is buckling at it like it's filthy. But you see that, and again, I'll show you some graphs that'll show from April to now, he's made drastic changes for all the positive within that curveball. I don't know if it's a mechanical thing or if it's something that he's doing out front or whatever it is, but it'll be interesting to see him moving forward if he can continue to throw that good curveball with as close to the 0 degree axis as possible. So that's just me nerding out again. Hope you guys enjoyed that. We'll talk to you guys later. See you.